Hello again, friends. Time for a very serious in other news. Because it's not other news, we're going to go behind the scenes and look at some other angles of what is a very prominent top story happening in the world right now, and that is the escalation of events with North Korea. Cuckoo North Korea and their equally cuckoo leader, Kim Jong-Un, who is determined, apparently, to have his entire state destroyed. So for those of you that have not been following this affair, and I dare say that's not many of you, what's happened just in the last 48 hours is that the United States has flown a couple of B-2 stealth bombers across the Korean Peninsula and dropped some fake ordnances on a South Korean island, basically a test run. And then they made an announcement about it. Hell, they might have announced it beforehand in a very overt way, saying, hey, hello, North Korea, we are ready to go whenever you are. Now, that may be overstating the things a bit, but I believe, I've only been alive for about 40-some years and only been paying attention for about 20, but I believe we are as close to some sort of intervention/war with North Korea than we have been since the end of the Korean War. Some folks older than me and wiser than me can dispute that and, of course, put it in the forum. But I can't remember things getting quite this hot. In fact, I'll probably entitle this podcast, North Korea, are we closing in on the end game? Is this about to come to a head, and are we about to go to war? For the record, I kind of hope not. There's millions and millions and millions of people on the Korean Peninsula that hope not, because the dictator Kim Jong-Un and his entire leadership corps are, quite frankly, not really playing with a full deck. This is well known to everybody. Some folks are now debating the wisdom of the United States, perhaps having provocative moves towards an unstable regime. But what I wanted to do here, just for 10 minutes or so, was talk about, why is this happening right now? I just told you, I've never seen it get this hot. I've never seen the United States, and not in memory, I don't remember the United States ever being this forward and this provocative, sending stealth missions and bombers and a true show of force. We've had in the past training missions and maritime exercises and war drills with the South Koreans, but everybody does that. We have been ramping those up too, by the way. For North Korea's part, they have been ramping up the provocations full time on their side, putting out multiple propaganda videos showing them destroying South Korea and invading and destroying the United States. That comes on the heels of them doing their third nuclear test, some underground test, just back in February. So I'm now already starting to get to some of the things. What are some of the things going on behind the scenes? Other factors that maybe you haven't considered that I am considering when I say I think we're about as close to war as we've ever been. First off, we'll start with the obvious. I'll just restate. North Korea has, for its entire history since the Korean War, been pretty bellicose, been pretty loud, quite frankly, been pretty obnoxious, with the threats that they're going to either take over the Korean Peninsula or they're going to attack the United States. The United States is their number one target in their mind, and certainly for their propaganda. So they have always been bellicose. But factor number one, why this is getting hot right now, they've been more bellicose than usual. The putting out of 3 propaganda films in the last 2 or 3 months showing, and it's all Photoshop and faked, but I mean literally showing us them invading the United States and destroying cities with bombs and stuff. That's pretty provocative. That's a bit much even for them, and they're crazy. Factor 2. Even though the North Koreans have been crazy since the Korean War, they haven't had a nuclear device since the Korean War, and they just conducted their 3rd test. I guess it's a success in some way, shape, or form. Who knows? They didn't blow themselves up, so I guess that's a success. But again, how does that play into the hotness right now? Because unlike Iran, and I'm probably going to bring up Iran a lot, but unlike Iran, who says, hey, we're developing a nuclear energy industry, the U.S. thinks we're trying to get a bomb, but we're not. And it's our legal right to have nuclear energy. It's true, okay? I don't know if they're trying to get a bomb or not. But Iran can say, hey, we're doing these other things. North Korea is making no such claims whatsoever. North Korea has pulled out of every international treaty and said, we don't care. They are overtly trying to get a nuclear weapon, and they've done their third nuclear test now. And then you're putting out propaganda videos basically saying, we intend to use these bombs as soon as we can. So numbers 1 and 2 already under the Kim Jong-Un regime have ramped things up to a level that the United States, and I actually think others, including possibly China, are now starting to look at North Korea as a true and viable threat. We've kind of laughed at them and joked about them for decades, me included. But now you're at a point where they are now conducting successful nuclear tests, and they are telling you, we can't wait to get a bomb because we can't wait to kill people. Okay, how long can the United States and South Korea and China allow that behavior to keep going? The United States has decided that they're going to stop it now. So again, that's partly why. That's the first 2 big reasons, I think. And that actually leads into reason number 3. And that is, there is a new leader in North Korea. Kim Jong-Un, he's only been in office for about a year and a couple months. Daddy just died just before Christmas, I think, a year and 3 months ago. So and he's young. He's young. I pointed that out in the past. This is a young leader of an unstable state who is trying to make a name for himself. And so right from the get-go, this guy, in year 1 of his rule, is saying, I want to kill everybody. I'm going to blow up everything. And we're going to try to get a nuclear bomb. We don't care no matter what. It's like, okay, basically this young leader, he could be in power for another 50 years. In his first year is saying, I can't wait, let's do it. Now that's not unexpected. But no one really thought that he was going to go quite so far so fast and so insane so quickly. So this doesn't bode well for the future, having a brand new leader in North Korea who's absolutely batshit crazy and saying, I can't wait to do more crazy stuff. And I have 50 more years to do it if I stay alive. That sets a bad trend that I think, again, the United States is saying, you know what? It may be time to nip this in the bud. Because we were hopeful that when Kim Jong-il died, Kim Jong-un's daddy, who was crazy, they kind of dealt with him with kid gloves and said, yes, we think you're crazy, but we don't think you're going to do anything, and we don't think you have nuclear capacity. And we were hopeful that when Il died, that somebody more sane would take over. That has now, I believe, been proven to not be the case. So reason 3, new leader in North Korea that does not bode well for the future. Here are some ones, though, that you're not thinking about. Reason 4, there's a new leader in South Korea. A new President Park just took office this month. So we have a more destabilized situation than usual that this poor woman, and she's the first woman president of South Korea, and she's awesome, by the way, very popular. But she's been in office a month, and now she's dealing with a possible war on the Korean Peninsula. So untested leader in trying times. You got 2 new leaders on both sides of the Korean border there. But you know what? What am I up to? Reason 5? There's a new leader in China too. Xi Jinping just took office this month as well. Wow. Let's stop and contemplate that for a second. New leader in North Korea. He's got the most tenure of them all now. New leader in South Korea. New leader in China. You know what? We could also say new leader in Japan, who just took office a couple months ago too, but the leaders in Japan rotate every 6 months. Let's just stick with the big ones here. Xi Jinping just took over power in China. Boy, what a terrible time for his first month in office to be dealing with a possible Asian world war. I don't think it's going to come to that. But I believe, and I'm trying to think from a U.S. standpoint and a Chinese standpoint, I believe the United States is also looking at this saying, you know what, 3 brand new leaders, untested, untried. None of these people are military people. I don't believe Xi Jinping spent any time in the military himself. And all of them are young enough to not even remember the Korean War. So, you know, I'm not saying they don't know about it, but people who are in a war or their parents were in a war still have a very strong emotional attachment to it and a strong emotional opinion about it. And none of these three leaders do. Again, Kim Jong-un's crazy, so let's just put him aside for a minute. So these guys are untested, and they don't have that emotional bond to it. And I think the United States is looking at this saying, this may be the time to go ahead and nip it. This is the opportune time to take action against North Korea precisely because the Chinese leader is brand new, untested. Does he really want to go up against the United States his first couple months in office? Probably not. Does he want to pull China into a greater conflagration over whack-ass crazy North Korea? Probably not. Is he absolutely passionate about the Korean War, which China helped North Korea in the Korean War? Is he absolutely passionate about it because he served in that war, and so he's got a stronger than average emotional connection to North Korea? No, he doesn't. So I think the United States very appropriately is looking at this saying, this is a very good time to actually take action because China is likely to do not much. And by the way, I don't even think the United States is doing this unilaterally. Of course, they're working with South Korea. Of course, they're working with Japan. Of course, they're working with all their Asia-Pacific allies. I actually think they're on the hotline with China quite a bit, too. The U.S. ain't no dummy either. And whether you like the U.S. or not, I don't specifically think of them as an imperial power. Maybe you do. But the United States is not looking to get into a World War III themselves. But maybe reason 6 why this is getting hotter right now is the U.S. is saying this is an opportune time to stand up and kind of stop this because we are now seeing there's no promise for this getting any better in the future. And it looks very promising that it's going to get worse. If these folks acquire a nuclear weapon, it can't possibly get any better. So the United States, in reason 6, is probably saying, hey, this is the opportune time. But also, reason 6, we have to have a show of force to assure all our allies in the region, to assure this brand new president in South Korea, and South Korea, a very strong ally of the United States, and Japan, the strongest Asian ally of the United States, that we're not going to sit on our hands and watch as this continues to devolve into a full-fledged war in which the United States will get dragged into unwillingly. The United States has now made it perfectly clear, nope, we're ready to go. This is a check on North Korea, overt check, saying, don't think that your rhetoric is scaring us off. We've been very kind to you for 50 years dealing with your cuckoo family tree. But now it's getting to a point that we might not do that anymore, and we might be overtly saying, we're ready. If you really want to go down this road, we're ready. And we certainly are saying that to our allies. We're saying, hey, we're ready. We're not leaving anybody twisting in the wind on this one. We're here and we're ready to go. Just a couple more things to wrap this up. Reason 7 why this is getting hotter right now is part of a bigger U.S. move, or U.S. focus in the Asia-Pacific realm. I've done podcasts about this in the past. This is well stated for the record. This has been going on for a couple, 3-4 years now, that the United States is shifting strategic and military focus on planet Earth from Europe, from maybe even a little bit from the Middle East, certainly from Afghanistan and Iraq, into the Pacific realm. You increased U.S. forces in South Korea, in Japan, new U.S. military presence in Australia, possible new on the horizon military presence in Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines. I'm projecting these things. I think you're going to see them come true. I'm pretty good with projecting. So this is part of a grander scheme which may be to check the growing influence of China, but again, also from the U.S.'s perspective of, yes, and to look out after our allies. That's what allies do. So we are going to have a presence in Asia Pacific. We're going to increase that presence, and lo and behold, you know what? Look at crazy North Korea. This is exactly why we're increasing our presence in the Asia Pacific realm. If China can't step up and reel this little bad puppy in, then we are ready to go. Policy stated, been in action for a couple years. Finally, what am I up to? Reason 8? Wow, this is pretty good. This is like 8 reasons in 15 minutes. Reason 8, and the final reason is that I believe that the United States is being very overt with these actions, and again, very forward, and I won't say aggressive. I won't even say provocative, but being very open with this show of force is that this is also perhaps a check on China, a little bit. Perhaps we're saying, hey, we're going to test this new leader. Hey, what do you guys want to do? Hey, we're here to stay. Hey, we're going to look out after our allies. It could be partly that. And by the way, side note, China really has not said much about any of this. China has not come out banging fists saying the United States is trying to start a war and we hate you and we're going to help our North Korean friends. They have not said anything remotely close to that, which leads me to the conclusion that China may be supporting this. They'll never openly support it, but they might allow it. Anyway, this might be a check on China. I think it's also definitely a check on Iran. And I told you I was going to talk about Iran 15 minutes ago. Now we'll finish up with Iran. Iran and North Korea really are, and I can't even think of any others off the top of my head. Iran and North Korea really are the two countries on planet Earth that are kind of the troublemakers when it comes to nuclear development. Now again, Iran's a whole other separate issue. They still are kind of mostly legally doing it right. But they're the rogue states that everybody considers, at least Team West, the rogue states that may be trying to acquire nuclear weapons. Iran says, no, we're not. North Korea says, yeah, we are. So I think what we have going on here also is the United States is saying, hey, look, we really don't want to attack Iran. I really don't think the U.S. wants to do that. In fact, I'm sure they don't. And so instead of having to wait for North Korea to spin off and start a war, or wait for Iran to develop a nuclear weapon, which is going to start an arms race across the Middle East, the United States is stepping up at this opportune time and saying, hey, checkmate on North Korea. We are now going to physically display some force and possibly go ahead and go to war with North Korea in an effort to make a message also to Iran of, we're not going to tolerate this, okay? We've been pretty good so far. We haven't attacked Iran. We've never attacked North Korea. Okay, there's the Korean War thing. But we've never done it in the modern era. We've been as tolerant as possible. We've had sanctions against you folks, trying to get you to do the right thing with the nuclear programs. We've had talks with both countries. So we've had talks with North Korea for a long time, the six-party talks. We've attempted talks with Iran. You know what? We've done as much as we can talking. We're definitely going to put a check on North Korea. And hey, Iran, see? If North Korea tries to nuclear arm itself, we might go ahead and stop that threat now, and you should pay attention to that lesson. Does all that make sense? 8 huge reasons in 8 minutes of things going on kind of above the scene, but also behind the scenes of this possible approaching end game with the North Korean situation. Again, is it going to happen? No, I don't know. Well, we certainly hope not. But it's never been so hot in my lifetime as it is right now, and I think those are the 8 reasons why it's all going down right this second. But for now, we're going to watch them, and we're out.